my computer. All right. So, gosh dang, everybody. Welcome to call 12 of creating smart salons and stylists. So we've destroyed and unfolded and uncovered and discovered the S.M.A.R.T of SMART: service, marketing, attitude, retail, and team. And, you know, this is what we call the 1.0 series. And man, what a joy, what a honor, what a great adventure this has been to thought of something, threw it out there, had some people jump on board that wanted to be part of this group. And then I took myself out of the equation and said, why do I have to do all 12 calls? I have amazing relationships and friends and connections that when I threw the invite out for some guest speakers, every single person said yes. It blows me away. So I am beyond grateful for Larry. He and I go back a few years. I met him through Philip Wilson several years ago, I think at the Long Beach show, if I recall, or maybe Vegas. Yeah, Long Beach, I think. And I'm the stalker that I am, and I go from a handshake to like I want to be a friend, and then I want to build a relationship, and then I want to see what happens, and I want to see how we can help each other in this industry. So I've been kind of stalking Larry and reaching out, and we've actually developed this cool friendship. And Larry just had me out to his academies in Jordan, Utah, outside of Salt Lake, just a few weeks ago. I had talked about it, for you all know already, that I went out there and did like 4 little vignettes of team building for the students and had an amazing couple days there.
They loved it.
It was awesome. And thank you so much for that opportunity, Larry. And it was, I love the students. I think the schools are hugely important, and I unfortunately have some opinions that the quality's not in a lot of them. That was not my experience there at yours. And like Eric says, and like Van Council says, and everybody, culture is bred and developed. And like Eric said, without culture, there is culture. The absence of culture, really, it becomes a culture. So Larry has been a speaker at Beacon, at the Nahas for years, and heads up that panel of all these great speakers that speak to the future of our industry called the students and the Beacon students. And he's owned salons. He still has a salon currently with his 2 academies. So I just want to say thank you, Larry, for being here. And we love having you. And I know you're going to blow us all away with some great content. We're very excited about that. So again, thank you so much for being a part of this. Everybody, Mr. Larry Curtis. They're all on mute. So imagine this great ovation, but they're also trained right now that they mute themselves. Yeah, we'll give you the golf clap.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Hey, I'm excited to be here. Happy to share. I watched the event you did with Eric the other day. That was great. And just again, excited to share a few ideas with you. And any way I can help, I'm happy to help. So
how did Larry Curtis become Larry Curtis?
Wow. Yeah. So my wife was a very successful nail artist first, and then she did hair, and then she went to Hollywood and learned to do makeup. So that was her background. I had a business degree, and like a lot of people, we just had this idea, let's start our own business. Bless you. And we thought, hey, let's start this little salon. And we didn't know much. We knew that if you treated people nicely, and maybe if you're always learning and growing, that's what we needed to start with. And so started this cheesy little salon, and did okay with it. And I'll tell you more about it kind of as we go. But
how big was that salon that you started with, the first one?
Probably about 6 nail artists, 2 hair stations, and some tanning beds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, we just, as we kind of went along, the hairstylists were doing pretty good. And we're like, hey, this hair thing is pretty good. Maybe we need to get, more serious. So started just trying to figure out how to grow and how to get bigger and better. And eventually we got named one of America's 200 hottest salons. Decided to get into schools because I was so frustrated, because I would hire people to work in the salons and they were never really ready for that high-end atmosphere. They didn't understand, how to build a clientele. And I would start doing guest artist classes for schools. They were dirty. They were disorganized. They didn't treat their students very nice. I thought, you know what, maybe I could do a little bit better. And so got into the school end of things. It's been 30 years since we started our salons, and 22 years since we got into schools. So.
And now you have 2 academies, correct?
Yeah, 2 that I own outright. I also franchised one in St. George, Utah, the other end of the state. So 3 that I'm associated with, yeah.
Awesome. And how many students do you have between the 2 you have?
About 300 students at my 2 schools, and then they have about 100 students at the other location.
Wow.
So about 400 kids a year.
And what's the hours in Utah?
Utah's 1,600 hours.
Okay, like California.
Yeah, exactly. So
awesome. So now you have the 2 academies. You still have the 1 salon as well, correct?
Correct.
So you got your hands in all the pies and understand the industry inside out, obviously. And so
I hope so.
I think we're always learning.
It's always changing. We're always learning, right?
Correct. Yeah. One of my quotes that my dad always said, the day you think you know it all is the day you better get out of this industry. And then he came to me years later. He said, okay, I'm going to get out. He goes, not because I think I know it all. I'm just not willing to learn anymore. And that's the best mindset I could possibly think of. And speaking of mindset, that's kind of what you were talking about when I talked to you about this call and the acronym of SMART. And you said, I want to do attitude. And so here we are with the A. And attitude is contagious, and hanging out with you, I know some of yours got on me, and I loved it because it's always positive, and you see the glass not even half full, but it's overflowing, and I love that as well. And you instill that in your team, and what I mean by team, I mean your staff, your instructors, your administration. We had a great lunch together, and I got to watch everybody interact, and I'm a people watcher, and you're like the same thing. We pick up on details, and I could just see the respect that your team has for you. And that leaders breed leaders. So you might be the top dog and leader, but I watch these people with amazing leadership skills just take control, and they are clearly defined job responsibilities and understand the team part of the bigger picture. And I really love that. I think that's what's missing in most businesses is stronger leadership, stronger definitions of responsibilities to create that team that you could walk away from the show and know that it's still a go. So right. love for you to share the attitude and your PowerPoint with all of us. And let's get this party started. Thank you again for being here, Larry. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here. So I hope I can figure the PowerPoint out good with you guys and not screw that part up too much. Technology and I are not the best for friends. But
I've learned as I've gone just through this series alone on this platform. It took me 6 calls to get a better sense of what it can and can't do. And it's been awesome.
We should have played around with it more with you beforehand, but
that's okay. Just hit the share screen. Hit the share screen, and then open your PowerPoint to presentation, and we should be rocking.
Okay, let's try this here.
There it is.
Okay. All right. So look, well, I'm kind of a storyteller. That's kind of how I teach things. So I'm going to share some stories and some ideas with you guys, and hopefully there'll be something you can get at,
I got my notepad ready.
So anyway, I'm excited to do it for you. So, Woody Allen said that 90% of success is showing up, and I think he's pretty close. I think 90% of success is showing up prepared. So, how is it we do that? How do we show up prepared? It's more about, how you are up here than it is, with this part of it. Your technical skills get you in the game, but it's your business and personal skills that truly win the game. And I think there's a couple ways that we're going to learn the important lessons that we need in life. The first one is through the repetition of, great education. We're always learning, we're always growing, and we're always getting better. And the other way would be through the impact, of the experiences that we have. So let me give you a couple ideas, first of all, with that. So with repetition, quick story. So back in the late 80s, I'm at a baseball game, and sitting there waiting for my turn to come to bat, and my buddy's gym bag starts to ring, okay? Remember, this is when cell phones are just first coming out, and he reaches down in his gym bag, and he pulls out one of these.
The brick.
Right? The brick cell phone. And I'm like, that is so cool. We're at a baseball game, and he's on the phone, and he's, making calls and taking care of his business while we're at this baseball game. And I'm like, that is amazing. I got to get me one of those. And it wasn't very long, and I was able to get my first cell phone. And I remember how it was when you first got them, and they were brand new, right? Everywhere we went, when I'm in a car, I'm standing. Even if I had a call or not, I'm pretending that I got a call.
Oh my God.
I'm important. I've got a cell. Right? So as amazing and cool as they were when they first came out, obviously we wouldn't use them today. Not when we have these, we all have these little computers in our pockets that we use, right?
Yeah.
Well, I kind of, again, that's what learning, growing, and always getting better is all about. As great as that cell phone was then, it wouldn't work for us today. It's amazing to me how many people graduate from school, never go back to education. If you do that, you're in trouble because you're uneducated at that point. You've got to always be learning, growing, and getting better. You've got to keep up, just like the cell phones have changed. We've got to keep up on our businesses. We need that motivation. We need to see what's new, because although success principles don't change, technology changes. There's a lot of other changes in our life. Now, the other way we're going to learn things is through the impact of the experiences that we have. A few years ago, the reason we have the barbecue on the screen, we decided we want to do this barbecue at one of my schools. And so we're going to go to a park that's close by. We check it out ahead of time. They don't have any of those outdoor grills. So I said, well, just, to one of my staff members, just go grab us a grill, bring it to the park. I'll put it together, and then we'll just use that at the park, and we'll keep it after. So I get to the park. I throw this grill together real quick. I throw the charcoal on. I put some lighter fluid on. I drop a match in, and I close the lid. Yes, you're not supposed to close the lid, right? So I come back. I let it sit there for about 10 minutes. I come back. I open it up, and it's this little fire inferno. And I lost my eyebrows and my eyelashes.
Oh my God, that was me last summer, man. Oh my God.
You don't want this to happen. The first layer, my hairline's all curly-cued, and there's this sweet aroma of cooking meat. And it's me, right? That is a really painful way to learn what you're not supposed to do. So I don't want to learn that way. I don't want to learn through impact. So to me, that's what education is. That's why the repetition of great education, it's going to help us avoid a lot of those pitfalls, a lot of those difficult times. So my first principle to you guys is that you never stop learning. You're always learning. You're always growing. You're always getting better. It's going to keep you at the forefront. As good as we are, and we've been very blessed and very successful, we have to go to education all the time as well, because, things are changing. In my industry right now, where most of my focus is the schools, it's changing all the time. They're trying to change hours on us. We have online learning that's starting now, like what we're doing here today. Let's face it, there's no excuse not to be educated now, because look at how many ways we can learn, right? Yeah. We don't have to go spend thousands of dollars to fly to LA to a seminar, to fly to New York to a seminar. We can do things like this.
I'm trying.
Again, always learning, always growing, and always getting better. That's number one. Okay. All right. Second, it is not where you start or how good you are. It's where you go and how good you want to be. So another little story for you. So this is a picture of me about 30 years and 35 pounds ago. As a baseball player for Pleasant Grove High School. And, I thought I had a pretty good career. And as I'm winding up my high school baseball career, there's a senior awards banquet. Coach is up there, and he's giving out these awards, and he starts on one, and he says, this next kid was the last kid that we kept on the team. In fact, we were only going to keep 10 sophomores, but he really hustled. He seemed to have a passion for the game, made a pretty good catch on the last day of tryouts, and we decided to keep him. Well, here he is now, 3 years later. He's graduating with 2 school records. He has a college scholarship. He's one of our senior leaders. The award for one of the most improved players on the team goes to Larry Curtis. Well, I'm in shock, right? And I wasn't all that excited about the award, because all I heard was he's the last kid we kept on the team. I thought it was great. And here I'm finding out I'm the last kid that they kept on the team, right? I couldn't believe it. But here's the thing about it. I might have been the last kid they kept, but I got better. And I got better. And I really had a love for the game. I had a passion for the game. And I practiced hard. And before long, I was starting for the sophomore team. But I didn't stop there. I kept working hard. In the fall, I went to fall ball, and I played there. I played winter ball. I worked out all winter long. By the time I was a junior, I was starting to get time with the varsity. And I didn't stop there. Again, I just kept working to where by the time I was a senior, I was one of the best kids on the team, had a couple school records, and like the coach said, I had a scholarship to go on and play college baseball. Now, I didn't become famous. I didn't play Major League Baseball. I didn't even get minors like you did, Oscar, which is really cool. But I was a good baseball player. And again, the point goes back to, it's not where you start or how good you are today. It's where you go and how good you want to be.
Yeah.
We all see these people that we maybe look up to or see how successful they are, and we forget that they had to start in the same spot that we're starting. They had to start there too. They had to go through it. They had to go through the difficult times and get the education and have the patience to get where they want to go. And it ended up paying off really well for me in my career because, as I told you about earlier, here's a photo of that first cheesy little salon, right?
Classy nails.
I mean, you look at this thing, we've got hand-drawn signs in the window. I mean, it was cheesy, guys. I mean, it was pink and purple colors on the inside. We just didn't know much at first, but we did know that we needed to learn and grow and get better. And so fortunately, again, that lesson I learned back from baseball was it doesn't matter where you start, it's where you go. And that led to some good things. This is one of our salons today.
Woo-hoo!
We've been named one of America's 200 hottest by Salon Today in the past. Our schools are beautiful inside. We're very successful. More importantly, we've had a lot of our students go on and be successful, which of course is our ultimate goal. You know, what are schools' ideas? Usually it's to help people pass the state board. Well, to me, anybody can do that.
Correct.
My goal for my school is to help people be successful. So we've been fortunate to help a lot of kids go on and be successful. We've been lucky to have a lot of nominations for the North American Hairstyling Awards, 17 in fact. We've had three winners out of those 17, which is really cool. Yeah, Dallin and couple other of our students there as well.
So Dallin, he won as a instructor professional?
Yes. Yeah. He entered, and he was actually a People's Choice winner is how Dallin won. As a matter of fact, I have his Naha sitting right here with me. So
nice.
He keeps it here, which is really sweet of him. And we made a lot of money. And I don't say that to brag in any way, but I think a lot of times as hairstylists, because we love our clientele, it's really difficult for us sometimes to charge. It's difficult for us to understand that it's important for us to make money, because this is the way I look at it. It's kind of like the analogy of when you're on an airliner, if you lose cabin pressure, what's the first thing they tell you? They say, put the oxygen mask on first yourself, right? First, because then you can help other people. Well, I look at success the same way. We have to take care of ourselves first. And once we become successful, then we're able to spread that. We're able to help our family. We're able to help in our community, and we can make a difference in the world. But it does take some money to do that. So there's nothing wrong with you making money and being successful. And I think that's really important for us to remember.
One of my old coworkers, Lance, used to say, the greatest thing we can do for the poor is not become one of them.
I love it. Absolutely. The poor can't help the poor, right?
Correct.
It takes money to build hospitals. It takes money to build shelters. Because of our success, we've been able to do some great things. We've donated over $50,000 to the YWCA for battered women and children. That's big to me. It's important. My sister was in a very abusive relationship. So to me, that's something that's close to my heart. We were able to help Eden Sassoon the last few years with the Thirst Project, where we donated enough money to be able to build a well in Africa to help people for their lifetime. So, when you're successful, you're able to pass that success on. So again, don't be afraid of making money. There's nothing wrong with that. So, okay, next, third up would be that we have to have a good plan. And so here's some specifics of what I think we need to have a great plan. Number one, of course, is really decide what it is you want. I think a lot of times we have different ideas, but we really need to focus. We really need to decide exactly what it is and get specific about it. And with focus, to me, it's kind of an acronym for follow one course until successful. Again, I'll tell you, I go back to the beginning, and I didn't know much at all. And it was a salon. We just didn't know a lot about what we were doing, but we just wouldn't quit. And we followed that one course, and I've stayed in the same career again for 30 years now. In April, we had our 30th anniversary, which is hard for me to believe. The time just goes so quickly. But we just stuck with that one thing and just kept improving and kept getting better until we found success. We just basically wouldn't be denied.
Wow.
So be specific about it. Decide, what is it you really want? Where is it you're trying to go? If it's in your salon and you want to grow from 4 chairs to 10 chairs, write it down. Write exactly what you want to do and how you're going to get there. Then set a deadline for yourself. But don't be too hard on yourself. That I think sometimes when we set a deadline, we we put it too close. We've got to give ourselves time. I always thought what Tony Robbins said was very important. He said that man overestimates what he can do in a year, but he underestimates what he can do in 5 years or in a lifetime. And I think sometimes when we put that deadline, we put too much pressure on ourselves. A deadline is good, but be realistic about it. Give yourself a little bit of time. You know, it's like the remodel. You got to see us partway through the remodel, Oscar. It always takes twice as long and costs twice as much, right?
I thought it was 3 times.
maybe it is. I mean, fortunately for us, it wasn't 3 times, but it certainly did cost more and take twice as long. And
if I could piggyback a little bit right now where you're at, years ago, I was empty. And, you know, I always talk to you and I talk to other people. Who inspires the inspirers, you know? And I found this woman, Marsha Weeder, who Oprah calls America's dream coach. Found her on YouTube, like 4'11" little Jewish woman, but like larger than life. So I had the time off for dates that she had an event coming up. This is when I was in San Diego. She was going to be in Anaheim, and I went. And her whole thing was about the dream. And she says, when you have a dream, the worst thing that most of us do is we start squelching the dream by putting all these actions and deadlines to it versus just living the dream for a while and let it organically. And that's kind of how my company evolved and developed, was very organically, not rushed. And then I had this other coach, Gary Ryan Blair, who when I was hired him, he's $20,000 a year, so I wanted my money's worth, right? And he says, I gave him a goal and it was a 6-month goal. He goes, oh, that's cute and sweet. Now what would you do with that goal if you gave it a MAP, MAP, massive action plan? So I turned a 6-month goal into a 6-week goal, so I didn't have all these nice little soft cushion landings. So I think somewhere between both of those is a nice little groove to find yourself, because I think we could be on both sides of that. Either we give ourselves forever and do nothing, or we kill it in the first week because we think it has to be done on Friday.
I love it. I absolutely agree. You always have to be moving forward and making progress towards those dreams and goals. But I'm just saying, don't beat yourself up if you don't meet it, or if you set too short of a time. Progress is more important, right, than perfection. You got to just see that you're making progress, and that's kind of the important thing. So next, of course, I would identify any obstacles. What's it going to take to get there? If you're moving from, again, 4 chairs to 10 chairs, what do you need? You need a bigger building. You need more money for more equipment. How can you get there? So take a look at what's going to be in your way, and then find a mentor. I mean, again, look what we're doing here today. There are so many wonderful people out there, and I have really found that successful people are willing to share how they got where they want to go. And, again, you're going to find a few jerks out there in the world, but most people will share. So if there's someone that has done it, talk to them. Go say, hey, I love what you're doing. I want to be where you're at someday. What did it take to get there? And then be willing, of course, to listen and to take their advice. But most of them are going to be willing to share with you. And I think that's great. And things like this, education, it's there for us now. It's easier than it's ever been before. Yeah. And then, of course, take action. We're going to talk more about that kind of as we go. I want to spend more time on it. But again, that's it. Decide what you want, write it down, be specific, set that deadline, find out what obstacles are in your way, get some help, get that great mentor, and then start taking action towards it.
Who would you say some of your mentors are, if I may ask?
Oh, absolutely. So early on, I had a wonderful distributor here. His name was Dave Clough. And Dave saw that we were just a young, struggling salon. We were kids. I mean, I was 23 years old when I started my salon. And I didn't know anything, but he was right there to help us. And he basically steered us in the right direction for great education. And at that time, there were some phenomenal people that they were bringing out to Salt Lake City. Michael Cole, who Dr. Lou Lasansi,
Dr. Lou,
a guy named Don Matlack, who was a wonderful educator for Matrix, just some really wonderful business coaches who were able to show us systems, who were able to motivate us and basically just point us in the right direction. And then, of course, we had to take some of our lumps as well. We had the barbecue blow up a few times. You can't avoid all of those things.
Correct.
But great mentors will help you get there a lot faster. And that's the whole point. You want to go farther, faster, and you do that when you're part of a great team.
I've said this on a couple calls. The fact that everybody that are my guests, such as yourself, that said yes, was eventually not to be too crude, but I grew a set and went for it, you know? I just had to get the balls to ask, and, you know, I had to risk the no. But the other, like I always train somebody, they could say no, but they could say yes. And thank God everybody did. And, you know, the last, I guess, 10 years or so, my major mentors, and I'll call them, you know, great friends for that matter, they've evolved to that, have been Gino, Eric, Van, and Luis Alvarez. And then I've told you that I've always wished them, they're my holiday boys. Every Christmas, New Year's, Labor Day, whatever, I'm texting happy whatever. And this year you've come into the mix because I hit you up for Memorial Day. So I love that I found the guts to go for it and ask, and then befriend these people. And I challenge everybody on our call to really start seeking that out in their communities as well, or even outside the communities. With technology, they could be anywhere in the world. You know, I have a friend on Facebook that I've never met. Her name's Anya. She owns 60 plus salons in Poland. And this woman has given me any kind of information I've ever asked her. And like the sweetest lady that I've never met in the world. And she's, you know, it blows me away when you just go for it, what you can get back. So go ahead and continue. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. And I'm glad you brought up a couple of those people. For example, Gino Stampora was one of my mentors as well. So partway into my career, when I actually had started my salon, I'd had it for about 5 years, decided, you know what, I want to go to hair school as well. I'll be honest, I had a lot of stylists sometimes that would say things like, well, you don't understand, you're not a hairstylist.
Correct.
So I thought, all right, well, fine. Yeah, exactly, right? So I decided, all right, I'm going to go to hair school. So I got about halfway through. I determined pretty quickly that I didn't necessarily want to be behind the chair, but I loved the industry and was going to focus even more on it. Well, one day Gino came to our school and spoke, and immediately I'm like, that's who I want to be. That's what I want to do. Yeah. And while everybody else was worried about, you know, what time is lunch, I stayed behind and I talked to Gino and I asked him, you know, what can I do to become more like you? I want to speak. I want to do some of those things. And Gino, again, just like you just said, very open, happy to help. Yeah. And we started staying in touch with each other, and he threw some ideas out, and he said, you know what, I can't do this one event. If you'd like to go give it a shot, you can do it. And that really led to my speaking career.
Wow.
So wonderful guy. And then again, and then a little bit later, you know, I saw, like you, I saw Eric at a hair show, and he's on stage and he's talking, and I'm like, amazing, this guy's teaching the same things that I like to teach. Yeah. And so I hit him up after we talked. We became fast friends. In fact, we ended, and you know about this, but we ended up doing this little book together.
I showed that on the Eric call, as you saw.
Oh yeah. And just love Eric. I mean, there's probably not a more like-minded person for me than Eric. I love the guy, and that's why I love our little group we have going. And he's been very helpful, and in return, I've tried to help him. I think I planted the idea for him to start a school.
That's what he said.
He's done a phenomenal job. I mean, Eric.
I think he said it's your fault that he has a school.
Whatever. He's so dang thankful for that.
Exactly.
And when it's time to retire, he's going to be super thankful for that. I promise.
Correct. The gift that keeps on giving.
But awesome. I'm glad you brought it up. Mentors are so very important. And again, there's a lot of wonderful people that are willing to share how they got where they are. And you just got to ask till you get the answer that you want.
Awesome.
Okay. So next, avoiding negative influences and developing a positive attitude. And so here's a few ideas on that. First of all, Austin Kleon said that if you're hanging out with someone and afterwards you feel worn out and depleted, that person is an energy vampire. We all know who those people are. They're the people that if you were at the grocery store and you saw them, you would duck and try to hide behind an aisle so that they didn't see you, right? And anybody who's like that, you want to avoid them at all costs because, unfortunately, we can't kill energy vampires. So like you stake
or
them.
Or kill them, period.
Right, yeah, exactly. So we just have to avoid those kind of people. And so if you want to become a more positive person, here's a few ideas for you. First, stop blaming others and remember that you are the one who creates your life. This is so big to me. I mean, I have some family members, quite honestly, that every time I turn around, they're like, well, Larry, you don't understand, I mean, you never have anything bad happen to you.
Oh God.
Well, here's the thing. Maybe I do have a very blessed life, but I promise things happen to me. I just don't blast it all over Facebook. Okay. In the last year, Someone vandalized my son's Jeep. It was $16,000 worth of damage on his Jeep. We've had car accidents in our family. We've had members of our extended family that passed away. I mean, things happen. It's life, but I realize that, and I try to dwell on the positive. I don't look at the negative, and I realize that wherever I'm at in my life is based on the decisions that I have made up to this point. And I don't blame other people for things, because I realize that I have the power to change it. And that's really important. I remember, again, I realize that I create my life. Second, I got to always be getting better. If I'm getting better, when things are getting better in my life, when I'm learning new things, that spills over into every area. That positivity helps you grow. It helps you do better in everything. Next, I want to become a find aware. And you probably heard this one in the past. Dr. Lula Santi taught this about being a find aware. And he always said, there's a man on the moon. Is what we're faced with today more difficult than putting a man on the moon? And I would say absolutely not, And so if they can put a man on the moon, can I not overcome the challenges that I have in front of me today? I believe that we can. And so once again, sometimes you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to go talk to other people. You got to get some help, get a little bit of help, and find ways through these difficult times they may have. Next, you got to change your perspective. And how do you do that? Basically by giving back. And we already talked about that a little bit. When we've done some of these events, when we've been able to help the YWCA, when we've been able to help this town in Africa, when we've been able to donate haircuts, for example. We've done thousands of complimentary haircuts for the homeless in our area over the last few years. I'll tell you, when you go do that, you start to really appreciate what you have in your own life. And it's pretty hard to be negative, because you start counting your blessings, like we learned when we were little kids. You really learn to count your blessings, and it changes your attitude.
Let me ask a quick question about that. So granted, you have the schools, and students have a little different attitude of responding to let's all go, and because they need the hours, they need the haircut, they need the experience to go do something like that. Here we have a bunch of salon owners and or salon employees, etc. How do we get the buy-in from them to do something like this? Because I know you have the salon too. And is that just because they came out of your school that they still have that mindset? Or how do we grow that within our cultures?
It is absolutely a lot easier to get it with students, but the salon does a lot as well. They participated in nearly everything that we have done. So when it came to, we did the hair show, which our students put on a hair show similar to the alternative hair show or something where it's.
And what do you call it instead of NAHA? It's the what?
The Taha's, the Taylor Andrews Hairstyling Awards. Yeah. And
I love that.
And our winners get to enter NAHA. And again, we've been pretty lucky to have some successful kids.
I saw the photos across that theater room, and those looked amazing, man.
Yeah, they've done a great job, and we've been very blessed on that end. But I just feel like if you present it well enough to your staff and show them the benefits as well. Number one, the best benefit, of course, is when you're out doing good, how you feel afterwards. Once you get them there and get them to do it one time, usually they're like, you know what, this was so worth it. They're so thankful for it. Now, I realize sometimes you might be giving up a paycheck for some of those hours, but there's good promotion that comes with that as well. And although we don't do it for this reason, when you give back, I really think it's that, that law of attraction and reciprocity. When you give good into the world, it comes back to you. And so when you can get
I'm waiting.
Involved, right? Oh, it's coming, man. Look at that. I mean, look at all the people that jumped on your calls, right?
I'm beyond blessed, man. Definitely.
Absolutely. But when you do good, it really does come back to you. And it just seems like, for example, we took the staff and we've done some of these events as well. And it's amazing how often somebody comes up to us, even from the news, for example, and goes, wow, I really liked your salon team and what you guys did. Are you interested in helping with something else? For example, we just barely did a big promotion called Stayward Haircuts. We have the Utah Jazz is our big pro team here. That's about the only team we have. Gordon Hayward plays for the Jazz. They did a big haircut thing where everybody could get either a haircut like Gordon Hayward or like Rudy Gobert on our basketball team, right? Well, the news calls us and they ask us if we'll put it on. Nice. So we ended up doing something like 600 complimentary haircuts with both the salon and the school.
Wow.
But I mean, again, you do it because you're doing good, and the money got donated to some charity. but the publicity that we generated from it was phenomenal, and it generated a lot of new clients as well. So we didn't do it for that reason, but the good came back to us.
Well, you obviously had the reputation for them to even ask you in the first place, and I'm sure that was predicated on past events, kind of things you've done.
Oh, exactly. And again, it all just comes back to you. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so critical who you hire and you know, getting everybody on the same page. And I know you heard what Eric said, and I've taught the same thing my whole career, and that is we hire for attitude and train for talent. Right. I really, as long as you have a base level skill, I don't really care, because I know I can teach you anything that I need to teach you. Yeah. But if you have a bad attitude, that's really hard to change. If someone has a great attitude, I can teach them whatever they need. So I really, when I'm doing interviews, it's all about the attitude. You know, for the first couple interviews, it's nothing but how do they respond to questions? If I say, you know, what would you do in this situation? I care more about the way they're going to respond. I don't really care about this part of it. They'll get that. I'm pretty confident, as long as their skills are basic, I can take them to the next level, especially with the quality of education we're going to provide them.
So you said the first couple interviews. So there's multiple. What is your formula?
Yeah, for us, it's usually 3 to 4 interviews. The first couple are more about attitude, and then we'll have them do a little bit of work and just show us, you know, what they're capable of, where their skill set is at. And, you know, the last one is kind of a wrap-up interview with everybody on the team, where as a group, we make sure that that person's going to fit into our culture, because, you know, I'm sure you've heard over and over in your call series, culture, you know, is everything, really. Having a great culture where everybody wants to be part of the same team, you know, makes all the difference.
Yeah. It's been I think it's resonated. Here it is, 32 years I'm in the industry. And this year, that has been my, like, just pounding in my head, is about culture. And like Christine and everybody, and Robert, so everybody that's in this group call, many of them are my one-on-one coaching clients also. And that's where we really focus on their individual needs and challenges. And everybody's having hiring challenges. And I know Christine's just fed up right now with the pool that she gets to swim in out there outside of Boston. And it's just not and it's sad, because I got to see the type of people you're putting out in the industry. God, why can't we get that around the country and also in all schools?
Well, I mean, hopefully there's some pretty good kids out there. You maybe have to go a little harder, or mine a little bit harder, to find them. I know that if I was to go back and give you my full story, my first set of salons, I had 3 of them. I got a great offer for them in 2001, and I sold them off. But I repurchased my name a few years back and started a new salon 3 years ago under the original name. And when I did, every person I've hired has been a student straight out of my school. So it's been a slower process, you know, because I've never been one for hiring other people's people. I just think it's unethical. If someone comes to me, of course, that would be different. If they want to come and talk to me, I'll talk to them, but I'm not going to go out and recruit other people's people. So I started with a bunch of new students, basically. And so it's taken a little bit longer. I mean, I'm barely breaking even, you know, 3.5 years into it again, right? But it's been the right thing, because I'm able to, number one, hire people that I've watched for a little while and that really believe in who we are and what our culture is, and, you know, just all the things that we believe in.
So 3 years ago, when you opened the salon again, you started with all brand new student talent?
With nothing.
So they were from 0 experience to 1 year and no clientele, etc.
Pretty much. I had a part-time person that was one of my staff members here.
Okay.
Who went over and became the working manager. Okay.
Roger, got it.
And that was it. And 3 new girls. So 3 brand new girls straight out of school, plus my working manager, and that was it. And it's a longer process, and it's fortunate where I can kind of suffer through the losing for a while. But we're finally to that break-even point. Now we're up to about maybe 9 employees, and slowly heading towards profitability. I know not everybody can do that. If I was starting, you know, or looking for new people right now, I know it's tempting to go for somebody who has clientele, but I would prefer to hire somebody straight out of school. I would go to whatever I believe is the best school in the area, or top couple schools, and I would start doing guest artist classes for them, because you're going to start getting leads right and left for kids who go, oh, I love what you guys talk about, especially if you're sharing your culture and, you know, what you believe in, and, you know, depending on what type of salon you are, you're sharing all that. they're going to be interested. You're going to start getting leads, and then you'll just have, again, you're just going to have better leads that you can sift through so you can find that right person. But you got to do a little bit more work than you used to have to do.
And it's so perfect that we have you. So I'm going to ask you a question that I'm sure everybody else has kind of asked in their head. So I know Christine's done that. I know a couple of other people on the call have. However, how did they start the conversation or call the school? What would work for you as the owner and director of a school that would appeal to you to have somebody stranger, because you don't know them yet, to come in to teach class?
Well, if I'm a very good school owner at all, to me, I want to hear from salon owners, because those, again, these are great connections. As a school, I would love to have that salon sending prospective students my way as well. So I'm just going to call up and say, hey, I'm, Larry Curtis. I'm from Dallas Roberts Salon. We would love to come in and share some of our success with your students. Do you offer guest classes to your students? And, if so, when would a time be available? And we're happy to do it complimentary, because for you, again, it's a great way to recruit. So take a couple of your best people over there. If you got to pay them for a few hours, so be it. Have them go in and do a great demo and share, everything that's great about your salon while you're there. Pretty soon, if you make it consistent, maybe you go in even 3 to 4 times a year is plenty, I would think.
Correct.
You're going to, start getting a lot of applicants. I really believe that. And then you can sift through it and find the right ones for you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I know people have wanted to try to make that phone call, and some of them paralyzed,
Yeah. And it's, again, most schools would love to have it. They would love to have that guest. To them, it's like, free education. They didn't have to pay for to get somebody to come in and do something for them. And it gives their instructors a break, and the students love to hear someone new.
And that's part of the number 5, give back too.
That's right. Exactly. And then our last one is think before you speak. Most of us have heard this acronym before, but if you want to be more positive, first of all, when you're having conversations, T, is it true? If we're not sure if it's true, don't share it. H, is it helpful? If it's not helpful for that person, don't share it. I, is it inspiring? Is it going to inspire them? After we're done talking, is what we've talked about been inspiring? If not, why are we sharing it? And is it necessary? Do they really need the information? If they don't, again, don't share it. And maybe the most important, especially in this politically charged world we live in right now, K, is it kind? Is it a kind thing that we're talking about? If it doesn't fit that true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind, why is it part of our conversation, right? If we want to become a more positive person, that's the way we have to learn to speak. True, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind. And I know we're not going to be perfect. I know we're going to have things that are serious we have to talk about, and we have to have, serious conversations sometimes. But for the most part, we can learn to use this. We can go with true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind. It'll make a huge difference in the relationships we build. And everything is about relationships. Everything. Your success is completely about building relationships. So that's how we become more positive.
That's what my dad said when I first got in the business. He's like, son, it was weird because like in the first 3 or 4 months after getting my license and starting at his salon, he'd come ask me to help formulate for a client of his. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, son, you got an eye already that I don't even have. He goes, people don't come to me because I'm talented, son. They come to me because we build really great relationships. And I was like, cool.
It's everything. Yeah, I think that was one of the first things I ever learned in the industry from Michael Cole. He said that, about 20% is your technical skills and 80% is your personality and your attitude. And I know that's absolutely true. And I'll share a story on that with you in a few minutes here. So.
Awesome.
So having a good attitude isn't going to keep things from happening to you, but the most important thing is it does help you deal with the things that happen to you. So a few years ago, I love Mercedes. I bought an SL about 7 years ago. This is a couple cars back now because of some things that happened to it, but just absolutely love this car. I had just taught a class just like this. I was going to lunch. The traffic is backed up, and I come to a stop because the traffic's backed up. Happen to look in my mirror, and I see a car coming pretty quick at me, and I can just tell they're not going to stop. And bang, I got hit from behind, right? Yeah. So this car, it's probably a month old. It's a brand new model for Mercedes. There's only been 13 of them sold in the United States at this time. Right? This is stuff I found out later. So there's no problem. Anyway, I get hit. I'm okay. I get out of the car. It's a little teenage driver. She's distracted trying to change her music when she hits me, and she's just sobbing, right? She's just sobbing. And so I'm like, hey, it's okay. I'm all right. Are you okay? She says, yeah, I'm okay. But she just continues to sob. I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm all right. You're all right. She says, yeah, but it's a Mercedes. And I'm like, I know, but it's all right. You didn't get hurt. I didn't get hurt. So let's not worry about it. And she's still crying. And I'm like, really? It's okay. And she says, yeah, but it's brand new. And I'm like, I know. Right? And she's still crying. I'm like, look, my for one thing, my mom always taught me people are more important than things, and I'm thankful for that. And how could I get on this little gal's case, right? I just taught about being a more positive person and true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind. What good is it going to do me? Is it going to make the accident go away if I scream at her, if I yell at her for what happened? You know what? She had insurance. I had insurance. Nobody got hurt. I didn't need to make her day any worse. And see, that's the thing about having a good positive attitude. It won't help you keep things from happening to you, but it helps you deal with what does happen to you.
Correct.
Again, going back to my relative, stuff happens to me too. I just don't dwell on it. I'm thankful for the good things. I realize that stuff happens. Expect the best. Be prepared for the worst, but celebrate everything, because life goes so fast, you guys. You got to enjoy every moment of it. This last year, about 6 months ago, we had someone that drove their car through the salon. In other words, through the front window, clear into our salon. The full car went through the salon. And the girls call me up and they say, Larry, a car just came through the window. And I'm like, okay, did anybody get hurt? No, nobody got hurt. We're just a little bit shook up. And I said, okay, great. And I started to laugh. And my wife was like, how can you laugh? I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of funny, right? How often can you say, well, somebody drove their car into the salon?
We have a drive-through salon now. First concept.
For the first time, right? So, but the thing is stuff happens. And, I hoped, of course, that they had insurance. It did turn out that they did. If not, we had insurance. It's an inconvenience. But again, going back to one of my mentors, Dr. Lowe, always said, is it a tragedy or is it a minor inconvenience?
Correct.
It's just an inconvenience. Nobody died. A tragedy is when someone you love passes away. That might be a tragedy. Most other things that happen to us are nothing more than an inconvenience, and that's all this was. It was a little bit of a pain in the butt. Yes, it was a mess. They had to come and board the windows up, and it didn't look quite as good for a few weeks and stuff. But you know what? It got worked out. It got fixed, and life goes on, and it's a great story to tell. And you look back, and those are some of the most memorable things of your life. Is that crazy stuff that happens? So,
I'm just glad I wasn't in the passenger seat when that happened to your car, because that was just a few weeks ago that I was in the front seat of that Mercedes, but it wasn't that one.
Yeah, exactly. So it stuff happens, and that's just life. So.
Yeah.
All right. I love this. I like to share a few quotes once in a while. To me, a quote is kind of like a mini seminar, delivered in a few sentences. And Alfred S.M.A.R.T said, we cannot choose the things that happen to us, but we can choose the way, the attitude we will take towards the things that happen. Success or failure depends upon your attitude.
Wow.
I've just really found out in life that that's true. Your success or failure depends so much upon your attitude, because once again, guys, things happen to all of us. It's not what happens to you. It's the way that you deal with the things that happen to you that makes a difference.
So this is powerful. Take responsibility. Exactly. That's probably the answer to my question. I'll go ahead and let you go, and then I'll come back.
Okay, cool. So the next principle, number 6, is taking personal responsibility. This is the hardest thing probably we have to do in our lives. I still got a couple kids at home, and it's not unusual for me to have to pull them apart because they're fighting. And if so, when I ask them, who started this, what do you get? You get one of these, right? They're pointing at each other. And if one of my kids
started it, you made
that's
them.
Right, you did it. He did it. She did it. And if one of my kids brings home a bad grade, it's always the teacher's fault, right? It was, but Dad, no. Now, was it the teacher that didn't go to class? Was it the teacher that, didn't do their homework, right? My youngest, I'll look at his grades. He's got like a D in a class. I'm like, why do you have a D? Oh, I haven't turned my homework in. I said, well, why haven't you turned it in? He says, well, it's done. I just haven't turned. I said, well, then whose fault is that, right? But it's not just kids. You guys might remember this guy. I did not have relations with that woman, right? Even our own president had a hard time taking personal responsibility. But if we're going to be successful in life, we have to understand taking responsibility, probably the most important thing we ever do. Your life is exactly the way you want it to be because it's based upon the decisions you've made up to this time. If you don't like something in your life, then you have to be willing to do what it takes to change it. And that's the key right there. Are you willing to do what it takes to change the situation that you're in? Being successful means that you got to be willing to do whatever it takes. You got to get up early, got to stay up late, you got to work nights, you got to work weekends. You got to sacrifice sometimes. Not long after we started that first cheesy salon that I showed you the picture of, we knew we needed to grow. We knew we needed to get better. The only way to do that was to move to a larger location and invest a little bit of money. Well, we didn't have a lot of money. I mean, remember, we were just kids still. We're probably, by this time, we're maybe 26 years old. I'm basically a starving college student trying to get my bachelor's degree in business. My wife's working in the salon. But we made one really good decision when we got out of high school, and that was we invested in a little, small, nice home. And we had a decision to make. The only equity in the world we had was in that home. Were we willing to sacrifice? Were we willing to give up our cushy, nice little home so that we could take the money and invest in a bigger, better salon? Well, to grow, to become better, we had to do that. So we sold our little place and we moved into this, which we effectively called or affectionately called the cottage. Let me tell you, it wasn't a cottage, right? So this thing was probably built in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's a dive, right? The bathroom is so small and so short, you have to duck down to get in the shower. If you took a shower, you had to bail the water out and put it into the sink to get it to drain because it didn't drain out of the tub. The rooms are so small, you had to kind of sidle sideways to get into your bed at night. And I had 2 little kids in this place. It was tough. It was a tough 2 or 3 years. Now, the thing was, though, you got to be willing to do whatever it takes. And that sacrifice gave us the equity we needed to start the next salon and go to the next level. And that next level is what really helped us, I would say, find fame and fortune. And that was, we started to make great money. We got some recognition for the salon that we had. And, one thing led to another. One good thing leads to another. So we were willing to sacrifice and do what it takes. But then again, that paid off.
Beautiful. Yeah, sometimes we got to take those couple steps backwards to move forward again.
And I wish everybody understood it. The reason I have this little photo up right here, "Are you a donkey?" is because, again, I want to go back one more time. And I love them, don't get me wrong, but some family members I have, some distant family members, they don't understand this concept that you have to look at yourself if things are going wrong in your life. And so I try to use this analogy. If one person tells you that you're a donkey, they're probably crazy. If 2 people, though, tell you that you're a donkey, maybe you better pay attention. But if 3 people tell you that you're a donkey, you better get a saddle because you're probably a donkey, right? In other words, if the same problem happens to you over and over and over again, it's not them, it's probably you. I've got a brother-in-law. Again, I love him. I wish him nothing but the best, but he can't keep a job. All right, this is 20-something years on I've known him. And he never has a job for more than a year and a half at the most. And it's always because, the boss and these bosses are so wrong and they're evil and they're bad. And no, it's because you're a terrible employee. And he's a very negative person. He's extremely sarcastic, and it's a mean, biting sarcasm. And he wonders why he can't keep a job. Well, he's the donkey, right? He just doesn't get it. It's not them, it's him. He has to learn to take responsibility for that, but he's never really learned that. And if the same thing keeps happening to us over and over, we got to be willing to take a look in the mirror and say, is it possible that there are things that I'm doing that are causing this? And again, I really try to look at my own life, and when I'm having challenges, say, what is it I'm doing? What is it that I need to do better? Maybe I'm not putting enough focus on the right things. Maybe it's my weaknesses that are causing this. At the very least, if I'm in a bad situation, sometimes it's my fault because even if someone else is doing something, I'm not changing it, right? I'm not changing the situation.
We say it's okay when we say nothing at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another great quote I love, people are always blaming, I can't read it all exactly. Circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want. And if they can't find them, they change them. You have to find what you want. So that leads me into the next thing, which is taking action. It's probably the biggest thing we do. I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make is we all buy into the idea that knowledge is power. And I think that it's not that knowledge is power, it's that the application and implementation of knowledge, right, is what gives you power. It's the action part. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is it that keeps us from taking action? If action is everything, if that, moving towards our goals is everything, what is it that keeps us from taking action? So I have a few ideas on that. So first of all would be fear of failure, right? But here's the thing. Failure is not the worst option. Not trying is, because if you don't try, right, you already failed if you don't at least take action towards something. Yeah. Or maybe number two, waiting for more confidence. This is a big one. For most of us, if you can remember back to the first haircut you ever did and how terrified you probably were. I was a kid like Oscar. I grew up playing baseball. Probably the only time I ever touched a girl's hair at all was if I was trying to get her to kiss me, quite honestly.
You will kiss me.
That's right. So
sorry, I just had this vision.
So for me, doing that first haircut, I'm just terrified, right? My hands, they're shaking like this, right?
Oh, yeah.
And my first haircut, I cut it on too much of an angle. And so the little gal, she would have had to stand with her head sideways. It would have been perfect, right? She wasn't going to do that. So I had to recut it. And of course that just makes me more nervous because now I'm cutting it again and I overcorrected it. This time I go,
I knew that was where you were going.
I couldn't win there. And so finally on the third time, I got it right and I got it even. She never came back though. But here's the thing. I got better and I got better. And eventually I was actually pretty good, but it was never, and I'm going to be very honest with you guys, it was never because of this. It was because of this. It was because we had a great time together. Right. We had fun with my clients. We had fun when they were in my chair. I just really tried to make their day. I tried to make it a great experience for them. It was never about the technical part. It was much more about just having a great time together. And that's really how I built, my clientele. But confidence comes from doing. The more we do it, the more confident we become, the better we're going to feel. You got to understand that any new thing is scary. It is. Any new thing is scary. Any new venture is a little bit scary, but you just have to jump into it. You have to do it. And each time you do it, you're going to get a little bit better and a little bit better and more confidence. And that's how you'll overcome that one. Okay. Next would be, trying to be perfect. We don't need to worry about trying to be perfect. Again, progress precedes perfection. Don't worry about perfection. Just try to stay making progress all the time. Okay. Next would be, we're looking for an absence of risk. Well, there's always going to be some risk. There's always going to be a little bit of risk in anything that's great that we want to do. And so you have to understand that. You have to keep moving forward. Next would be, we're waiting for the right mentor. As Oscar has talked about today, you don't wait for them to come to you. You have to go to, because no one's going to go, Oscar, I want to mentor you. Right? It doesn't happen.
I waited.
Yeah, you waited and nothing happened. So what you have to do is you got to go out and you got to make it happen. So you went out, you start asking people, will you join me on this? And what did they do? They said yes, right? Yes, you can't wait for them to come to you. You have to go get it. And then last is, do you have a true desire? Because you really got to want to do it. So, one little story that goes with this. So when I'm in high school, I'm a sophomore and all my buddies and I are sitting around at this, I think it was an assembly, and we've got one of the previous year's yearbooks, and we're sitting there and we're circling all the cute girls, right? Because that's how you are when you're a sophomore. So we're circling all the cutest girls in the school, but there's this one girl that I'm just like, man, she is it. I think she's the most gorgeous girl in the school. She kind of reminds me of Christy Brinkley, who was the big model back at the time. And I'm like, man, I would love to go out with her, but I'm not thinking too serious about it because she's actually a year older than me. And, it just doesn't happen usually, right? Because the sophomore girls are going out with the junior guys, and the junior girls are going out with the senior guys, and the senior girls are going out with the college guys. And so the sophomore guys are kind of by themselves, right? So I don't think much more about it. But it turns out we run into some of the same crowds, and one of her friends says, she thinks you're cute.
That's all it took.
Exactly. Now, cute is the lowest level of entry, right? That's the lowest level of entry. She didn't say he's hot or great looking or what we'd say back then, he's a fox or anything like that. She said, she thinks you're cute. Okay, but
You're
that's like,
dating yourself, man.
that's enough. Yeah, exactly. Man. But that's enough right there. That's enough, right? So I decided I'm going to try to ask her out. So we got this football game coming up. I see her and her friends there, and I'm going to ask her to the next dance. So I stand up from my seat, and I start to walk down, and I get scared, and I turn around, and I go sit down. So I got to try to self-talk, right? So I'm like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, right? My heart's just pounding. And I'm like, all right, come on. So you're pretty cool. You're pretty cool for a sophomore. You can do this. So I get up again, and I start to walk down, and I get scared, and I turn around one more time, right? She would later say that it was 4 times, and I'm telling you it was only 3. But on that third time, I finally go down, I sit down, and I sit down next to her, and I say, what? Would you go out with me? And what do you think she said? She said yes. And because she said yes, it led to the gal I've been married to for 35 years.
Now that's a fox.
Yeah. And all because, I got over my fear, which fear to me is false expectations appearing real. So a lot of things we're afraid of never come to be. But I got past that, and I asked her out, and she became my beautiful wife. And, of course, that led to these guys. And now some of these guys, right? So what would have happened if I wasn't brave enough to go and ask her out, right? I got past that. I took action. And because of it, a lot of my dreams and goals have come to be. You basically have to get out and make it happen. You cannot let it come to you. You have to get out and you have to make it happen. As you've talked about, Oscar, with all the wonderful people you have met in your career, you have to get out and make it happen. You can't wait for them. Some of the fun people I've been able to work with, Nicholas French. I worked with Nicholas at the Alternative Hair Show. Philip Wilson, our mutual friend, Fatima Ampe, Vivian McKender, Oscar Bond, Luis Alvarez, Eric Fisher.
Look at Eric down there.
On and on and on and on. And that is all because I got past that fear and I took action towards those dreams and goals. You have to make it happen, because if you let it happen, you get what life gives you. But if you get out and make it happen, then you get the things that you want.
Amen to that.
Next, I would say, you got to be passionate, and here's some of those things that it takes to make it. And again, Oscar, I can't read my screen because
passion, patience, persistence, deep belief, consistency, and strategy.
Right. Okay, so passion. Let's face it, we all love to be around passionate people. It makes a difference. You're gonna attracts like. And if you're putting passion out there, if you really love what you're doing, first of all, if you love what you do, you'll figure out how to be successful at it. If you hate it, you'll never be any good at it, right? So you want to be around passionate people. You got to be passionate about what you're doing. Second, you got to have patience and persistence, because success takes time. We talked about it earlier. Success takes time. I always tell students when they're coming out of school, they need to look at their career more like college. You have your year of school, but you also have 2 to 3 years to build a decent clientele. And that's if you do everything right, correct? I mean, I don't want to put limits on anyone ever. I've seen people that have done it faster, but let's face it, for most people, it takes 2 to 3 years to build a great clientele if you're doing things, the right way. So you got to have some patience and you got to be persistent. And when it's going to be hard, that's when you need the deep belief. You got to really know that inside that you're doing something that you're passionate about, that you love, and that there's going to be a payoff for you down the road. That's what that deep belief is, because we're all going to have those hard days. It's like students, I always tell them, when you first start school, you love it. Your instructors are so smart, and look at this kit they gave me. It's like Christmas. And I love my school. Can I get a sticker of the school's name on my window and all that stuff at first, right? But they're going to hit those hard days and those hard times. And all of a sudden it's like, I know more than they know. Right? And can I scrape this sticker off of my car? Look at this crap they gave me, right? Because we go through those hard times, but hopefully it comes full circle. And with our students, we always say later, you're going to look back and you're going to go, wow, I really did learn a lot. My school cared about me. They helped me go on and become successful. And I think that's kind of the way it is with everything in life. We've got that first moment when we start off and we're so excited and we're so passionate, but we hit a few of those difficult times and those roadblocks along the way. And that's when we have to have that deep belief inside of us, because if not, we'll give up. We'll quit. And I'll tell you, I think the number one difference between those who are successful and those who aren't is that persistence. The persistent people, they just don't give up. They just keep learning and growing and trying things. And absolutely, they have some failures along the way, but they just don't quit, right? And then you got to be consistent, and that's part of that. You got to do those same principles every day, even though you may not always see, the benefit. It's like losing weight, right? I mean, you and I know that. We've struggled with it sometimes. But when you start doing the right thing, you don't necessarily see it that day. You don't necessarily see it in a week. You might not even see it in a month. Yeah. But if you keep doing the right thing, it pays off. And eventually you see it. Well, it's the same way in your business. Do the right thing. Be consistent with it. Eventually, it's going to start to pay off. It does take time, but it will work out, and it'll be the right way. What's my last one on there, Oscar? I can't see it.
Strategies.
Oh, and of course, that's part of it. You got to use the right strategies, right? It's all about proper strategy. And this is where you learn those strategies. All these calls, everybody is learning some great strategies. Systems, putting systems in place and following them and realizing that they will pay off over time for you.
That's awesome. Well, that's, it's so basic, and yet it's so good to see the words like in your face right here on the screen. It's awesome.
I always think it's interesting because I say that success is simple, but it's not easy because it's simple principles. I mean, sometimes people go to a class and they think, oh, I'm gonna learn this mind-blowing stuff, but that's not really what makes you successful. It's those simple principles that probably most of us know, but do we actually do them? Do we actually follow through with them?
Not consistently, correct.
Yeah. Exactly. Another great quote, when love and skill work together, expect a masterpiece. So if you can put what you love, that passion for what you love, together with your skill, watch out, because you're going to get a masterpiece.
Awesome.
We've already kind of talked about patience and persistence, but I do want to share one little quick story with you. I had a buddy in high school. His name was Charlie, and Charlie was a pretty average kid. He wasn't the homecoming king. He wasn't a star football player or anything like that. But every weekend, without fail, Charlie had a date. And a lot of us who thought we were super cool didn't date near as much as Charlie. And the reason is Charlie never took no for an answer, right? I mean, he was very persistent. So Charlie would ask a girl out, will you go out with me? No. So he'd move on to the next girl. No.
Numbers game.
No. It was a numbers game. Exactly. Till eventually he got the yes that he was looking for. And you know what? Charlie always had a date. And that's how we have to look at things. We got to realize there's going to be, again, there's going to be those times that we don't win, but we just keep moving forward. Don Matlack always said, you can be on the winning team or the learning team. We never have to lose as long as we learn. And that's always, that's always been a huge one to me. I believe me, guys, I've screwed stuff up. I still make mistakes all the time. It just doesn't get me down because I realize, hey, I learned that doesn't work. Let's move on to the next thing. And it just helps you get there faster because you learned what not to do sometimes.
Love it.
Another quote that goes along that, if you would go every day to a very, dang it, I cannot read my stuff here because it's covered by my picture.
Why?
Oh, hey, I finally figured out how to move the damn picture.
I was going to say, just.
So Ron's Glasgow, if you'd go every day to a very large tree and take 5 swings at it with a very sharp axe, eventually, no matter how large the tree, it would have to come down. So to me, again, that's such a big one. In other words, no matter how big or audacious your goal or your dream is, if you'll just keep working on it a little bit every day, eventually you're going to get there. We always wanted to win a NAHA. That was just kind of a cool thing for us. We thought it would be a great publicity thing for us too, to be able to say, hey, we've won this award. And I'll tell you, it took a while. I mean, again, we've had 17 nominations, and it wasn't until I think nomination 13 that we finally actually won. Wow. So, that's that persistence thing. We just kept going at it. We kept going. We kept trying to improve and find out, what's it going to take. And eventually, one of our students was awarded. And since then, we've won a couple more times. And, that's how life is. It's how your career is. It's how your business is. Again, it just takes time to get where you want to go. We're seeing it right now with the new salon. It's 3.5 years in, as I've already said, and it's barely, profitable, barely. But the track now is going this way.
Correct.
And, so it's just going to get bigger and better. And but again, you got to keep swinging that axe.
I made a little inspirational poster one time, and it said, if you took one action a day, every day towards your goals, 1 year from now, you will have achieved 365 things.
I mean, I love it. And I think sometimes that, again, we think something new we want to do is daunting, but if we do a little every day, it's amazing how much progress we're going to make in that 1 year's time.
Yeah. Awesome.
Let's see where we're at. Oh, yeah. All right, 10.
I lost your picture. There you are.
Okay, now we're back. Learn to be more flexible. Flexibility gives us power. Rigidity is death. We've got to learn to be more flexible because, as we've talked about, things are going to happen to us. This was my, gosh darn it. There we go. There's my, that was my first bigger salon right here. I think it still holds up nicely today. And this was about 1990. We're doing great. We wanting to grow. We decided we want to grow to a second salon, right? But I'm still a pretty young owner. I don't know a ton. I go find another location that's about 20 minutes away. And this is what it looked like inside. So we decided we want them to look a lot more similar. So we go and we start doing a little bit of light remodeling. We're repainting things, changing some of the interior so that it looks the same. Well, I'm about 3 weeks into this light remodel, and a guy kind of comes busting in the door. I can tell he's upset, and he says, "Who's in charge here?" And I'm like, "Well, I am." And he said, "Well, you may have purchased the salon, but the lease on the salon is going to run out in 6 months. And when it does, we're not going to release to you. So I want you to stop the remodeling that you're doing."
Wow.
Well, obviously, if I'd been a little smarter business person at the time, I would have checked out the lease and realized it was going to run out that quick and done some more due diligence. But I didn't. And here I am. I've just spent, a few $1,000s, not a ton yet, but a few $1,000s to start the remodel. I've put a $20,000 down payment on this salon, and it's going to get kicked out in 6 months, right? Well, I'm devastated, right? But I married really well. My wife's like, "You know what? Things haven't been working out. Don't stress. Let's just see what we can do." So I go talk to the people that sold me the salon, and I explained the situation. They turned out to be very honorable people, and basically said, "Look, if he's not going to allow you to release it, it wouldn't be right for us to keep your money." So they returned my down payment. So all I ended up being out was the couple thousand for the remodel and a lot of embarrassment, of course, not having been smarter to check it out. But it was a good lesson in a lot of ways. Number one, about being a little smarter with due diligence.
Yeah.
And then just number two, that things do have a way of working out the way they're supposed to, because it was probably only 6 to 8 months later that the opportunity came around where I was able to get involved in education. And honestly, if that second salon would have worked out at that time, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Now, education has become my biggest passion, and I'm sure glad I didn't miss out on that opportunity. So I think we have to remember that by being flexible, a lot of times things work out, the way that they're supposed to work out for us. And you're going to have those ups and downs, but they're still going to work out in the long run.
We have a chat comment down here from Christine,
Awesome.
and it said, "Similar experience. Spent $25K to open my first salon, and they sold the building 6 months later. Forced to move, but tripled my business in the new location. Everything happens for a reason." Yeah.
Awesome, Christine. Awesome. That's fantastic. And I've got one more for you, just like it. When I got that third salon going, I had a guy approach me and say, again, this is about this same time, had a guy that approached me and said, I'm interested in starting a school. And everybody tells me that you have one of the best run, schools around, or salons around, pardon me. And he said, "Why don't I do the artistic end and you'll do the business end, and let's start the school together." And I thought, yeah, let's do it. Now, I got to tell you, I was warned by a few people that he wasn't the best person to partner up with because he's just kind of flaky. But I wanted it so bad. And I said, yeah, let's do it. So we had the little bit bigger name and reputation at the time. So we started a new academy called Dallas Roberts Academy. This is 1995. And I worked with him for a while, and they, quite honestly, they were right. He was very difficult to work with. I would probably spend 50 hours a week working, and he'd spend 4. His half, he thought, was to do 2 classes a week, while I had to run the whole business, basically, right? And for the longest time, I didn't really care because I enjoyed it. I felt like it was just a new avenue for me to have growth and to do something I loved. But eventually, it wore on me, and about 7 years into it, I was ready to sell. So, or to have him me buy him out. So I went to him. That was the first option. I said, I'm really ready for this new adventure. And, what would it take, for me to buy your half of Dallas Roberts? And he said, "Oh, no, dude," 'cause kind of how he talks. dude, it's worth too much money. I'm not going to sell it to you. And I said, okay, I understand. I said, but I really do need this new adventure. And so, why don't you buy, my half? He's like, no, dude, I don't have any money. I can't do that. So like, okay, I'm kind of stuck here, right? So at this time, we felt like the business probably worth about $1 million, which would have meant my half's worth, $500,000. So I'm looking around. I'm trying to find some way to sell out. I'm always saying you have to take personal responsibility, right? So if you're unhappy, whose fault is it? Well, it's my fault. I'm not happy. If I want to change, I got to do something about it. But here's the thing. I couldn't get anybody to pay me $500,000 for my half.
Yeah.
So I got a choice I've got to make. Am I willing to stay here and be unhappy, or will I take less so that I can move on and do something that makes me happy? So I decided, you know what, I'm going to sell it. And so I found one of my instructors who was willing to give me $200,000. Not a lot of money for what I had done and invested. But once again, I had to decide, if you're not happy, whose fault is it? So I said, you know what? All right, I'm going to make the change. So I sold Dallas Roberts for $200,000. I was able to go off on my own, use it's all my businesses are named after my kids. So I went off, used my other little boy's name, and we started Taylor Andrews. And it's been the best thing that I ever did. I've been able to do things my way and be able to find a lot more success than I ever did the first time around. So once again, you've got to learn to be flexible. Flexibility gives us power. There's going to be detours. There's going to be roadblocks. That's the way life is. If one of my favorite analogies is, on our phones, when you use MapQuest, if you make a wrong turn, it's gonna reroute you, and you can still get to where you want to go. And I think that's such an important analogy for us. We're going to make wrong turns. We're going to screw some things up. We're going to make those mistakes. Doesn't mean we can't still reach our dreams and our goals. In fact, a lot of times it helps us get there faster because, once again, we learn what not to do. If any of you have ever been to Hana, Hawaii,
wow.
The road to Hana has something like 600 and something turns. And I'll tell you, it can be a nausea-inducing ride, right? But once you get there, the payoff is amazing. Beautiful black sandy beaches, just an incredible view. The water is such a beautiful deep blue. I mean, it's truly an amazing place, and it was worth the ride. And I think that's the way it is a lot of times with our careers. You're going to have those ups and downs and difficult times, but the payoff is incredible. Louisa May Alcott said it this way. She said, "I'm not afraid of storms, for I'm learning how to sail my ship." And I love that. I love that. So. Yeah. All right, we're getting there, my friend. So mistake.
We're kind of like at time right now. How much longer do you have?
About 5 minutes.
Okay, cool. And then we'll open up some questions.
Fantastic. So one big last thing I want to leave you with is that mistakes are opportunities. I love Disney movies. My favorite is The Lion King. My favorite part is when old Rafiki bonks Simba on the head, right? And he says, "What was that for?" And he says, "It doesn't matter. It's in the past." And he says, "Yeah, but the past hurts sometimes." And he says, "You're right. Sometimes the past does hurt, but we can either run from it or we can learn from it." And that's the most important thing right there. Are we running from our past experiences, or are we learning from them? As we talked about earlier, you don't have to be on the losing team. You can be on the learning team. As long as we learn from those experiences we have, we're still moving in the right direction. We're still going to do absolutely fabulous down the road. And then, things are going to happen to us in life. One more funny story. Right after my wife and I got married, we get invited to this Christmas party. I'm sitting across the table from this guy who plays football for the local college. We're hitting it off. We're talking about sports, cars, all the kinds of things guys love to talk about. Somehow it comes around to guys wearing earrings. Now, remember, this is 30 years ago. I'm young. I'm super opinionated. And I said, I think it's kind of feminine when guys wear earrings. This big old football player got kind of a funny look on his face. And he reached down into his pocket and he pulled out a diamond stud earring that he put in his left ear, right? Now, I got to tell you, I've always believed in the good Lord, but I knew right then and there he was out there because I was given a revelation. It was revealed to me that I am 5'11", 170 pounds. This big old football player is 6'6", 280, and I better change my attitude, right? So I looked at him and I said, I never liked him before, but man, does that look good on you, right? And he just laughed. And the moral of the story is this, guys, we're going to offend people sometimes. We're going to be offended by people sometimes. It's called life. Get over it. Keep moving forward. Don't let those challenges bog you down. Don't let them hold you down. Don't waste your time on that kind of stuff. Just keep moving forward. Give 100% to everything that you do. It's your life. It's your career. Nobody cares about it as much as you do. If you're giving 100%, you're going to be extremely successful. Anyway, we could go on, but I know we're running out of time, so we'll open it up.
Oh my God, Larry, that was awesome. Great presentation. I love the words. I love the content. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, go ahead. And if you want to close, stop the share. That'll pull everybody back up, Larry. There you go. Boom. Cool.
Hey, I'm getting better at this.
I know. You can have this thing down. Does anybody have any questions for Larry? Go ahead and unmute Miss Christine, please. Thank you.
Where could I get a copy of the book that you have with Eric?
You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm going to send everybody who's on the call today. Oscar can let me know who it was. I will send you the zip drive that has my DVD, my 2 CDs, and the digital version of the book complimentary, okay?
Damn.
That is awesome. You are the best.
Thank you. I'm happy to do it.
How you like them apples, you guys? I just got a text from, I think one of my peeps is on the call. Kimmy just said, Larry is awesome. Such an amazing call. And are you still on the call, Kimmy? If you are, unmute and speak that, child. What did Melissa just say? I saw a chat here, sorry. Wow, thanks so much from Melissa. Okay, got it.
Thank you. Thanks,
it
Melissa.
disappeared. I got a question, Larry, if nobody else is speaking up. So, this industry, I believe we are a group of wounded souls. And we have an all-comers welcome type attitude. And I think that's why I love it, is we're so inclusive of an industry. Having said that, unfortunately, after 20-something years of coaching and consulting and working with people on the business side of things, I find and I hear their lack consciousness on a regular basis and their worthiness conversations. I think that's all under the brand of attitude. And since we're on the A of attitude, how do you support, especially the young ones who I'm sure are having tons and tons of the voices in their head that they don't know anything, they don't deserve it, they're not this, they're not that. What are some tips and tools and techniques you might have for us to support ourselves as well as our team in overcoming some of those worthy conversations, especially around value and price?
I think that, first of all, with your own worth, you have to go back and put yourself around other positive people, right? Like we talked about, becoming a more positive person. You really are who you hang out with.
Correct.
The books you read, the education you attend, and the people that you hang out with is really who you are. And when we go, if you want to talk price, I just feel like you have to look at it this way. As soon as I'm 80% booked, if I'm even 80% booked, I deserve to raise my prices. And most of your clients, they don't know any better anyway. Let's face it. Most of them come to the front desk. What's the first question they ask? How much? Yeah. They don't even know. Half the time, they don't even know what you charge, right? And honestly, if there's something that you love, are you really gonna get upset over $5? Like, let's say you're gonna raise your haircuts $5. I mean, that's just one stinking Starbucks, the way I look at it, right? I'm not afraid to raise my prices $5 because most of my clients don't know what I charge half the time anyway. So 80% just say, how much is it? And they write the check out. Maybe 10% will say, did you raise your prices? And I'll say, yes, I did. And you have to be confident and stand tall and not worry about it. Once in a while, somebody will ask why. And if so, it's very simple. I say, I was getting so busy that for me to have the time I want to spend with people that I care about, like you, I needed to raise my prices. And that's all I have to say. I don't have to justify things. No one justifies to you when you go to buy groceries or when you buy anything else in your life when they raise their prices. And then, yes, you will have a couple grouchy people that'll be like, why did you raise your prices? Well, guess what? I don't want to do that client anyway. And if you're busy enough and successful enough to have built yourself to where you're 80% booked, losing a couple of clients here or there is not a big deal.
Nor will you lose that money. Nor will you lose that money.
No, because you've made it up with all the people who don't mind paying a little more because they value you and they understand your value. And besides, it's refreshing to get new clients sometimes, right? So if we lose a couple of the grouchy people, no big deal. I don't want to deal with them at this point in my career anyway. I'll be honest with you. My version of success is being able to do what you want with who you want when you want, right? And I'm lucky enough to be to that point. If I don't like to do it, I just don't do it. Quite honest.
Awesome for that. Before I move on to Delia's question, what I always say about that, especially if you're in a salon with multi-level pricing and that person you've kind of outgrown each other, I always say that's not a bad person. They're just not a good fit anymore. Perfect. And then I can just move them into the next level back down. And that's what we got a lot of that going on.
Absolutely. And if you're doing the golden circle where you have, assistants assisting your best people, then, they can move on to your assistants eventually, and it's no big deal. They don't have to feel bad, and they've gotten comfortable with them, and your top stylists can raise their price. It's not a big deal.
Awesome.
That's a whole other class though.
I know. I just unmuted you. Go ahead and ask Larry your question, please.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm asking it right, but I just opened a salon. So how did you, or what guided you to get on the focus path? Because I find I don't know if I'm asking the right questions or I'm reading the right books, that I don't know what I'm to ask or how to get there.
So you just barely opened a new salon?
Yeah, so I opened it with the intentions of having instead of I got lucky where I was booth renting, this space opened up and it's the same amount of rent almost. So my thought was, I can come and work and enjoy my clients and have a great time. But because I'm having so many walk-ins and so many people wanting to come work here, I didn't hire anybody because I don't have a system. And I knew I didn't want to have to stumble and guide people when I don't know how to guide them yet. So, but I think I'm growing too fast and I don't know how to get focused and because I can't stop it.
Right. That's awesome though. What a great problem to have, right? There's some really great resources out there. One of the first and most reasonable one would be to join the Professional Beauty Association. I don't know if you're part of that yet, but if you're not, it's the PBA, the Professional Beauty Association. It's very reasonable to join. There's a lot of great benefits of being part of it. And one of the benefits is that they have a lot of systems and things already set up that you will get complimentary of being part of their program. So for example, if you were looking for salon manuals and different ideas on compensation and things like that, right? So that might be a good starting point. If your goal is to really grow into a good sized, successful salon, then there's some companies that are fantastic at that. Oscar will have some great ideas for you on that. I know that some of the people he's worked with in the past, as well as one I've worked with, was called Strategies. And a lot of my business systems in my salon came from a company called Strategies. Yeah, they're wonderful. And it's not free, of course, but if your goal is to grow the salon and grow beyond yourself, they might be someone that you want to look into because they've already got systems in place and training in place that can help you to know exactly what to do to get to the very next level.
Awesome. Robert has a question, please. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, since you mentioned Strategies, did you embrace the whole team-based pay or did you stick with commission?
I kind of did a little bit of it, right? So we kind of are, we're basically a salary-based salon, and then with a little bit of bonuses built in. Not to the extent that Strategies does, because I did do that the last time around. But this salon, I'm going to be very honest, this newer salon is kind of hands off for me. My whole career now is more in the education side. And so I have a manager over there and I kind of let them do their thing. And so we're using parts of it. I would say that, if you're going to embrace it, and you probably already have researched it quite a bit, boy, you better be ready to just manage it, right? You can't work behind the chair and manage in that type of situation because it's a big project to run a strategy salon. Yeah. But at the same time, if you're willing to do it, I think the benefits can be huge, especially in this day and age where it's pretty difficult to compete anymore with booth and suite rental. You better have something that's different and be able to prove to those new stylists coming out of school, why it's different, why it's special. Because let's face it, most schools, see, I'm going to teach my kids about every type of compensation while they're in school. Here's booth rent and here's suite rental, and these are the advantages, these are the disadvantages. Here's commission advantages, and so on, right? But let's face it, most schools, what's their whole goal? Teach you how to pass your state board.
Correct.
They'll never teach them any business like that. And so they just know it's every man for himself. So you have to retrain every person's thought process that comes to work for you. So again, it can be a great thing, but it's almost a full-time thing. And so if you're going to embrace strategies, it's a little bit more work for sure. But I do think it's a great program if you're willing to do that.
Yeah. Neil's awesome, and so is the program.
Yeah.
And it's a
I've done
serious
more of
strategy.
a hybrid of it, honestly.
Yeah. Awesome. Anybody else with the question? Because I know we got to wrap up. I want to honor you all's time. Are we all good? Good job today, y'all. Happy campers. Wow. Call
Thank you,
12.
guys. It was really an honor to spend some time with all of you. I appreciate it.
Larry, man, thank you. What a great way to end the 1.0 series. You were our 12th call. Had no idea what it would look like here at the finish line of the 1.0. To all of you, you guys, you make my heart freaking sing right now. I'm like a proud little papa that we were able to create this community and the interaction that's taken place, the friendships that have developed and grown and continue to harvest. 2.0 starts on July 10th. You guys all have the links out there and you've seen them. Go ahead and register whenever you are. Again, if you guys are coaching with me one-on-one, that's the added bonus value to coaching with me is you get it complimentary as long as we're in the coaching contract. So I'm going to continue to honor that at least for the 2.0. So y'all get a freebie one more time, but then that's it.
And, if anybody wants to contact me, you can find me on Instagram at Larry W. Curtis. Find me on Facebook and friend me. I'm always happy to share.
You're also in our group, though, too, right, Larry? You're in our SMART group, right?
Oh, that's right. Absolutely. So if I can ever help with anything, I'm more than happy to do so.
Man, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your commitment to the future of our industry and sharing your wisdom with us. Knowledge is knowing, wisdom is doing. And you shared it with us today, and we're grateful for that. You've changed and made a difference today for sure, Larry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you, and congrats on, always being educated and growing all the time. Thank you.
And just so y'all know, Larry's coming back in 2.0, but on a different topic. We were playing around with what that's going to look like and settling on a date, y'all. So God bless. Take care. You guys, we'll talk to you guys in a few weeks on 2.0. Thank you all so much for being a part of this. You all made a dream come true. Now go make yours come true, too.
Thanks,
God bless y'all. Thank you. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, everybody. Peace out. Breaking down your walls. Here we go.